Good evening, everyone. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided by sending such notice to the Asbury Park Press, the Middletown Patch, and the Middletown Township Public School District website, and the posting of such notice at the Augustine Minor Administrative Offices in each elementary, middle, and secondary school website in the district. Roll call.
Mrs. Caminiti, Mr. Donlin,
Here.
Mr. Gymo, Mr. Heffernan,
Here.
Mr. Little, Mrs. Tobacco,
Here.
Mrs. Wright,
Here.
Mr. Capone,
Here.
Mrs. Minuis.
Here. I need a resolution for executive session to be discussing personnel and negotiations and contracts.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. We're into executive session. Good evening, everybody. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided by sending such notice to the Asbury Park Press, the Middletown Patch, and the Middletown Township Public School District website, and the posting of such notice at the August T. Minor administrative offices and each elementary, middle, and secondary school website in the district. Roll call.
Mrs. Caminiti, Mr. Donlin,
Here.
Mr. Gymo, Mr. Heffernan,
Here.
Mr. Little, Mrs. Tobacco,
Here.
Mrs. Wright,
Here.
Mr. Capone,
Here.
Mrs. Minuis.
Yeah. I'd like to stand for the pledge, but after the pledge, can we please have a moment of silence for Virginia Kerr? She passed away on July 18th. Mrs. Kerr retired in 2005 after teaching chemistry at High School North for 25 years. Mrs. Kerr was also an adjunct instructor at Brookdale Community College. Mrs. Kerr touched the lives of her many students with whom she shared her love of learning. We extend our condolences to the Kerr family. Please rise for the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, at this point, we're going to open up the mic for the public comment on agenda items only. Seeing no one? Close that public portion. Oh, you do? Come on up. I'm sorry. I didn't, yeah. If it's on the agenda, otherwise you could speak
There's-
after.
On the agenda.
If not,
There's another time later on.
Yeah.
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 Okay, sorry. That's okay. Okay, we need a motion to approve the minutes for executive session of 6:22 and the workshop voting meeting on 6:22.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Abstentions. Ready? Under the report of the business administrator, I need a motion for number 1 through 4.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. Under the report of the superintendent, do you want to give an update?
Yeah, actually, Mrs. Doherty's going to give an update
Sure.
to the board and community on the transportation requests that we've been getting.
Sure.
We've had several inquiries, requests for reviewing of transportation that's provided to students at High School South and from particular areas. And it's areas that are, the parents who are contacting us, they do not qualify based on mileage. They're below the 2.5 miles that, is our policy and also the state administrative code as far as providing transportation. So and there's been concerns expressed about the route that students have to walk and the sidewalks and crossing guards and a host of other issues. So in response to that, Mrs. Walker and I have reached out to the township and we're putting together a collaborative meeting with them to talk about the issues as a whole across the whole township, not just so focused on that area. We'll review with them. We do have a list of routes that have been identified as hazardous already, and that's been in place for many years, predating, when I was here. And those students receive transportation, even if they're within the mileage, don't qualify by mileage because the routes have been deemed hazardous. And we are going to look at this in its totality. There's been questions from time to time for people in other parts of the township as well, but we just want to make sure we're working in conjunction with them on the same page as far as if there's resources that are needed. For example, the crossing guards are employed by the township. So if it's a matter of putting more crossing guards out, that's something we will work with them on. If it's a question road sidewalk conditions or things like that, that's something we're gonna have to work with them on anyway. So we should be meeting with them in the next week or so. We are working on setting up a date and, taking a look at the problem and the issue in its totality across the township.
Thank you.
Has this particular area already been identified on prior reports as potentially being hazardous?
They're not no,
It's this area.
no, they're not, right, no.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if one is from this area and has to walk to high school south,
South.
there are areas which have no sidewalk.
Now, there are sidewalks the whole route. They do alternate sides of the street in some places.
Okay,
So that the students may have to cross.
understood.
There is one section, I will say, that crosses over a bridge,
Yes.
which is very dangerous in my opinion. You're going over a bridge and, we have to think about 2.5 miles that these children will be walking over a bridge. It's probably gonna take about 40 minutes in a normal day, 5 miles an hour, which I don't think they'll be doing with a backpack on. I think it might be a little excessive, but that is a dangerous bridge right there with ice and snow.
Have we looked at
That
Four
is-
Ponds before? As far as,
Not specifically, but
Yeah.
they don't qualify under the mileage.
Oh, I
and, yeah.
got you, but if we've never.
There's sidewalks in the Garden State Parkway overpass? Are there sidewalks which actually go under the overpass?
One side only.
One side.
One side?
Yes, one side.
So the kids have to zigzag back and forth. Yeah, they have to cross.
At some points.
In the wintertime, if there's snow on the ground, is the snow removed from that sidewalk? Because I know it's a long stretch where the park is. and the horse farm
Well,
is right there.
it's supposed to be. What we're hearing from parents is that that's not always
I'm more
done
concerned if they're
diligently.
leaving early in the morning, obviously, November,
dark.
December,
Definitely
January,
can't.
very dark.
Dark,
That
yeah.
bridge with ice or rain or snow.
It's a concern.
I think we need to really go look at that bridge and see what I'm exactly speaking about. But I think it's a wooden bridge, actually.
Again, we are working we are putting together a meeting to get a bigger group looking at this and to help evaluate the issue.
And there are buses which actually pass Four Ponds on their way to the school.
Yeah.
There's
I-
buses that go up
yeah.
and down Middletown, Lincroft.
Sure.
Yeah,
Our buses are full. Like they have been assigned beyond capacity because we know everybody doesn't ride, so.
Right, that's the other piece of it. Our transportation coordinator's been out this week, but we'll be back tomorrow. We're going to get more specifics on, what the loads are on the buses in that area, what any potential options would be. But again, this is not something, if we're going to look at it in one area, probably it would need to be reviewed across the township. So
how many students we're talking about?
I don't have the number, readily available. I haven't pulled all the information as far as.
Last week when the parents said 6, but
I
I don't know
yeah, I
if that's
thought I heard
accurate. One of the
6.
parents said it was about
I
6.
think it was, right, it was it was less than 6 because some students weren't going to high school yet. Some were still.
Oh,
in-
it was that a year to come, right? You're
Yep.
right.
Okay.
That is just from that
Yeah, there was,
development, but there's
There
a
was one other person.
lot
that-
of other
What-
neighborhoods that are in the same position, even in that area.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's another person from that area.
Long story short, we're working on quantifying it more and working, to get input from, if there's other resources that we can employ to address this.
Anything else? The super report? Do you have anything?
No, that was the report, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I need a motion for under the superintendent's report, number 2 through 6.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm opposed on number 2. Abstentions? All righty. Under student services, we need a motion for number 1 through 6. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention. Under facilities, I need a motion for number 1.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. Under policies, we have some first readings, but under second readings, number 2, and I believe the abolishment we're voting on.
Yeah.
So I need a motion for number 2 and 3.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I'd like to bring up something, if I can, with respect to the self-insurance policy, which is proposed policy 6780.
Mhm.
Just a suggestion here. Second line before the word or, I think we should make it and/or, because as it reads now, it indicates that the board may adopt by resolution a self-insurance program for employee health benefits or liability. It should be and/or liability.
Good catch.
I mean, that's just a glaring error. Second, with respect to paragraph numbered one, I think we should indicate that the insurance broker has to have a New Jersey license. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Got it in?
Yeah. We'll write it so that the changes can be
This-
made because that's the
I
first
can
reading.
review the tape and get the comments, so.
Okay. Alrighty, on curriculum,
You
number
have to-
one. Oh,
You haven't voted on that one, right?
can't believe we just did, right?
They
Two and
did,
three.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
did
we
you?
did.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought there was only 2 and 3.
That was the first reading. Yeah, the first one's the first reading, so we have
First
time to
reading,
change.
So we can make a revision before the second reading next
Okay.
month.
Yeah, we didn't vote on the first one. All right, so I need curriculum, number one.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Under finance, we need number 1 through 4.
So moved.
Seconded.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, under personnel.
We have
Did you do student?
student
activity?
activities.
Okay, under student activities, we need number 1, an approval for number 1.
So moved.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, on personnel, I'm going to do the addendum separate, but under personnel 1 through 14.
So moved.
Seconded.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Under the addendum, letter E, number 1, letter F, number 1 and 2, and then approval of increase or decrease in transfers, number 5 and number 6.
So moved.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All righty, we have nothing under negotiations. Old business. Anybody have any old business? Just want to remind everybody that the board retreat is Monday night at 6:30 here at High School North.
Thursday on 6, I think it's still.
6:30. 6 o'clock, we're opening because of public comment.
Okay.
So
30
we'll
minutes.
public comment for 30 minutes. And then the retreat will start at 6:30. Any new business? Alrighty, let's open it up to 30 minutes of public comments, 3 minutes for each speaker. Anybody wish to? Speak? Then we do have some comments to be read in. Those speakers will be allotted the 3 minutes also. Good to see you, Leo. In a while. You look good.
Already made.
It's been a while.
Talking to Tammy.
Oh, it's big news.
Talking business. I'm here regarding the proposal to two legislation signed by the governor regarding LGBT matters included in the curriculum. I guess my main concern, although there are many issues revolving around it, my main issue is there are these two documents signed by the governor. There are 11 shalls. The Board of Ed shall, the Board of Ed shall. I learned from going to many committee meetings in Middletown from Tony Fiore. He said that if there's a mandate to the legislature and the governor, legislatures and the governor's office, they have to fund it. So my question is, when you construe and to study, like you would study and research, whatever you have to do you find that the shalls are kind of like executive orders by the supreme secular governmental authority, the governor? Does this become a requirement? And I ask that question because I have an article that says in the Asbury Park Press that I'll pass the article out to each member in this gathering. It says that the let's find my place. Well, I can't find it right now, but it says that there would, it does, the board does not have to give its consent to these legislations. I can't find it, but I'm paraphrasing. The Board of Education, all public boards of education throughout New Jersey do not have to consent to carrying out this legislative proposal apparently coming from the Assembly and the Senate of New Jersey. I don't have any of that material. I get a hold of it, but I'm not ready to study it. But I have a few documents. So that's my essential issue. Do we have any, can you give me any response this evening?
I think we could get back to you once we figure out if that shall is a mandate. I really don't know if it is.
Whenever shall is used in legislation, it's mandatory.
Okay.
If it's a mandate, the state has to fund you with state aid for the additional time. The government uses impact. Okay? How does this adjustment in the budget impact the other matters in the budget, irrespective of how it affects the taxpayer?
We're gonna look into that, and we'll have Amy maybe reach out with the answers.
And so to cut this short, or before you cut it short for me,
Yeah, sorry.
could you give me the time and date of the next meeting? I didn't catch that. I wasn't ready to take on
I
that.
think it's the 9th.
So I may have to
Let me double check for you.
get a response.
Oh, you'll get one.
There's no microphone here. I don't know why I'm talking.
We'll get it for
By the
you.
way,
It's
I'm
August
already hearing-
18th.
August 18th, Leo.
Oh, what is it?
August
August
18th.
August 18th. And you said the times earlier that the.
No, we usually start at 8 o'clock.
Oh,
I think
No, you asked when you were going to talk tonight. I said it's probably going to be a little bit earlier. You said 9. I said, no, it's 8:30.
Oh, but so it's the
Yeah,
same time. here.
Same time, 8 o'clock.
All right.
It's also a workshop meeting, so it might be a
Thank you very
little.
much.
Yeah. Yeah, it depends when you get to speak. It depends because it's a workshop and we might have some presentations or other things going on. But we open at 8.
Can we just clarify your question? Are you asking what the curriculum is or what the mandate is or what we're specifically
Well,
following?
I don't know if I
Funded.
can bring it up right now.
We're being funded.
I don't know if King
So you're asking about
Tim
funding.
Pincus and the other staff members of the departments, academic departments, are finished considering that stuff. There are some delicate matters which is celebrated in this article, age appropriate. They use the word appropriate, but they don't use age appropriate. And some things, it's.
He's been in touch with the curriculum department about the policy itself. I think the question tonight is because it says shall, is it mandated and is it funded by the state?
Well, state aid.
Right. But we don't always get funded for mandates, so that's what we have to.
By materials, the resources, you have guest speakers in the classrooms, or an auditorium or whatever.
Definitely.
But by all means, make the taxpayer through the legislature and the government pay for what the schools need to support their good efforts.
Thank you, Leo.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support. Anyone else from the public?
Vera Paseki, Ashar Drive, Middletown. Just real quickly, there was an article that came out about the governor funding 125 million more in extraordinary aid, which is the aid to cover the above the 55% of special education. I know that was something that Dr. George was lobbying, and maybe it was you also, Mrs. Bright, were you there?
Yes.
I was just curious of whether that affects us or whether we have any chance of recouping some of those costs.
Do you want me to answer that?
Yes, please do.
Yes.
We did receive an allocation amount already for our 2021 extraordinary aid, and it did represent an increase of over $800,000 over last year's amount. So it's about 2.4 million versus about 1.6, almost 1.7 that we got last year. So yeah,
Okay,
so it was about
great.
$800,000 increase.
Also on the hazardous, I don't know why I'm talking.
Force of habit. There's one here. There's one right here. You got that?
Right.
Thank you. I'm glad you're looking at all the hazardous bus routes. A couple of years ago, when the state announced that they were cutting the aid, I believe it was Tom's River that struck out all the hazardous busing routes, because technically we are not required to fund that or pay for that from everything that I've looked into and read. So I'm glad you're looking at it all, because once you start opening Pandora's box, I'm sure there are a lot of people that would like that as well.
Yep.
And there may be routes that quite honestly aren't hazardous that just haven't been looked at in a lot of years. So I know many districts just cut that out completely as a cost saving measure. So I just wanted to mention that again.
Thank you, Vera. Anyone else?
Thank you. Anne-Marie Espinos from Shoreline Terrace. I respect your time limit, so if I go over, just flag me. I have
Okay,
a couple of
hopefully I won't have to.
pointed questions having to do with the recommendation from the Jersey Board of Ed that came out in late June about what the safe return for school basically is going to look like. So in general, my big question is, are we going to get notification from our individual schools about what the classroom and school setup is going to be come September? I'm thankful that so far we know that it's mask optional, and we'll be grateful for that for a very long time. But there's still a lot of other things that go along with all that. The plexiglass, the 6 feet apart, the not being able to do group activities and all of that. My daughter participated in one of the summer activities and was delighted to be back in school, which was normal for her. You know, no plexi, being around her friends and being able to do activities hands-on with her teacher, and she was ecstatic. So I want to be able to prepare them that if this is what it's going to be like going forward. And the plan itself doesn't state that, it just states the math's optional and what will happen if something goes awry. But for myself, I would just like to know definitively that this is what's going to happen, like how it's going to look for them. So again, I'm comfortable with the elementary school. We've been there a long time, but my son is starting middle school, and as the oldest, I have no idea what that's going to look like anyway, let alone now. So kind of that sort of thing. And lunch is a big issue.
I can answer most of that. Our intention is to go back to make it look like what your daughter is experiencing right now. That's at this time, there may have to be adjustments, just like there will in the year if anything happens, but that is our intention right now. Lunches, we are going to have expanded space outside for students who to sit and eat outside when the weather's okay. And some of our elementary schools will still be having some of the students eat in the classroom and others eat in the cafeteria, just give a little extra room because they are kind of right on top of each other. But other than that, we are planning for our business as usual, back to our science experiments at the middle and high school. Last year it was all packaged up in the back of the classroom and hands-on activities, group activities. At this point, we are not going to get rid of the desks for tables, but they will be pushed together as tables. Just in case something happens, we do have to go facing forward. Hopefully we won't. We don't have to go into storage and desks and everything back in. So, but other than that, it's going to be business as usual.
Awesome, thank you. I appreciate you commenting on that. Transportation, do we know what that's?
Right now, there is a CDC order, which is a law, that masks must be worn on buses unless it's unhealthy for the student. That is one of the exceptions. So while it's warm out and the buses aren't air conditioned, that could be, a reason why a student would not have to wear a mask. But like on all transportation, whether you're, going on a plane or a train, you have to wear a mask. School buses is included in that in the CDC order.
Now, the CDC order is a law.
It's an order. It's not a recommendation. It was like the governor's order. This is the CDC order.
So what happens if the CDC, they put out a lot of recommendations just today?
There's a recommendation.
Those are recommendations.
The only order that I know of is the transportation, and that isn't particular. That isn't just pointed at schools. That is the whole country. Yeah. Yeah.
One last thing on the education and New Jersey education, they suggested or making reference to educators talking to students about vaccines, and in their order that students, and I wanted to know how Middletown was going to go about that. I
don't believe that's nothing, we haven't talked about them yet. It's not my intention. I don't think it's any of the administrators' attention to have teachers talk about vaccines. We do put information about vaccines. Yeah, for us, we feel that, the more students that get vaccinated, the smoother the school year is going to go for everyone. So, we're going to put information to help parents that want to get their child vaccinated to get vaccinated, but we are not going to be, teaching students about that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And just the last thing, about the masks, if they were to go back, because I was reading again, masks don't change quarantine.
At this time, they do not.
Correct.
I don't know if we're expecting new, updated guidance by the end of the year. They keep saying that they're going to come up with some more guidance. I don't know what that's going to say. I don't know whether it's going to be more, restrictive or less restrictive in terms of quarantine. So right now, it's still 6 feet, 16, for 15 minutes, whether you have a mask on or not.
Right, so it doesn't matter.
At this point, no. Right now, we're operating at our summer programs the way we did in June.
Right.
That hasn't changed, but hopefully something will change. I don't know if that's going to come about, but because we don't want to be quarantining students. We don't have to quarantine.
And the students who choose, or the parents who choose to send their children without masks, they are not going to be segregated from the rest of their class.
No, it's the same as the end of the year. It was-
I'm
No.
just for myself,
Double
so I
checking,
can sleep
no.
better at night. I just wanted to ask. So I appreciate your time and I appreciate the
Yep.
answers very, very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, place to look or Jacqueline Daly, 27 Crest Road. I just wanted to, I'm glad that the other speaker clarified about what the beginning of school will look like, and it definitely makes me feel a little bit better for my own children. And Mrs. Walker had mentioned, you know, stuff changing if they give us new guidelines and flip-flopping and stuff like that. So I just wanted to, I guess, bring it up that if they do come out and say, FDA, CDC, whoever it will be, regarding mask requirements, because of this new Delta variant, and all the variants that are coming out, and that's being talked about. Just that I called the local hospital today to find out about their testing to see if they do have a specific test that they can tell that there is the Delta variant at the hospital. They said that there is no such test. So I called the health department. They also said that there is no such test at the moment. So my whole thing is we shouldn't, or how can we base decisions regarding wearing a mask if the information is not fully transparent and we're not getting the real information? So I just wanted to bring that out and just, you know, bring it to everybody's attention that because the PCR tests, well, in addition, the PCR tests now that the CDC or the FDA came out and said that they're pulling them because they were you know, they were being faulty. How can we base our decisions for our children in the school district and the, you know, rules and guidelines and regulations that we implement if these things that are coming forward are not truthful? And how do we base our decisions when we don't have the correct information? That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Can I ask a question? Sorry. Did you get an answer about how, just my own curiosity, do we have any answer how does anybody test for a Delta variant? I've been asking this
So-
question of everyone.
You can, the Regional Health Commission discussed that at their meeting this morning.
You did?
I don't want to speak for them because I don't want to I'm not a doctor. I'm just
You're just
Yeah,
a lawyer. You
country
can
lawyer.
tell us.
no, but I would recommend either call Rich DiBenedetto, he was in the
Well-
meeting, or David Henry at the Health Commission, and then they could explain the process, how they test for the Delta variant.
So I did get a little bit of information when I did call. They said that, I took my notes, so,
When did you call?
this morning.
Oh, at what time? The meeting was this morning at 11:30.
I think it was about 1:32.
Oh, okay, so it was after the meeting, so,
Yeah.
okay.
They said that, I'm just reading through my notes. That tests, so it's not done at the local level, which is what I had said. And that the person I spoke with actually said it's still developing information and it hasn't been enough time to collect data.
Who did you speak to?
I didn't catch her name.
Oh, okay.
It was
This is
a
at the
woman.
Department of Health or at?
This was
The hospital.
so I called the Department of Health. There was an answering machine. I did not leave a message. And then I called the New Jersey COVID hotline and spoke with medical professionals. They're actual doctors and medical.
I would think that
physicians
the Health Commission can, I don't even know, I don't think the meeting was recorded, but Dr. Meg Fisher, who's the representative from Seabright to the commission, she explained the whole process this morning.
Okay.
So we could probably get you that
Writing.
specific answer.
So just as a whole, it was said that it's not done at the local level as far as the variant is concerned, and there is no specific test for that. However, they do collect random sampling and they send out the random samples and do the genetic sequencing based on those random samples. The woman said it's done in 48 hours, so after more research, those genetic sampling cannot be done properly on the tests for the variant for several weeks. So,
Yeah.
you know, I will definitely follow up with more phone calls. I didn't have time today, but I'll call the people that you have
Okay.
mentioned.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else from in the room? Okay, Amy, we'll go to the emails, 3 minutes each.
Had some comments that were emailed to our board meeting email to accept comments for those not attending here in person.
Going forward too, for this, because we are not having remote meetings anymore, the regulations that require us to accept those comments do not apply. So we do not need to do
So
that
we
going
will be
forward.
discontinuing that for the August meeting. So the first comment is from Kelsey Mackey, Mohawk Avenue, Middletown. As a mother who works inside and outside the home, I'm deeply disappointed by the board's decision to discontinue remote participation in meetings. Unfortunately, those of us who have multiple responsibilities may not be able to leave our homes in the evening and sit through a closed door meeting in the hopes that we might get a chance to speak. Although I appreciate the asynchronous option for email, it's important that the board understands that email comments cannot carry the same urgency as spoken comments. If you only allow those who attend meetings in person the chance to speak, you are disenfranchising a large swath of the community, particularly those of us who have multiple responsibilities. So I urge the board to reconsider this move. On a related note, I believe this push to limit participation reflects the larger philosophy of some board members, as many of those serving on the current board have been totally unresponsive to comments that have been emailed to them. For example, during the last academic year, I have sent at least 4 carefully researched comments to all board BOE members. The response I got from this board was decidedly underwhelming. I greatly appreciate Tom Gimo, Deb Wright, and Barry Heffernan for taking the time to respond to my emails. But I would like to publicly express my disappointment with Joan Minuis, Leonora Caminiti, Frank Capone, and Jacqueline Tobacco, all of whom could not be bothered to read or thoughtfully respond to any of my emails. Even more disappointing than the lack of responsiveness, however, are the ignorant and misinformed views of several members of the BOE, specifically regarding COVID-19. I would like to highlight Ms. Tobacco's comments in particular, as she is one of the most vocal and misinformed members of this board on the subject of COVID-19. Recently, Ms. Tobacco, in her capacity as a representative of this school board, attended a highly partisan panel hosted by New Jersey Republicans. It should be noted that all of the so-called medical experts on this panel were speaking outside of the respective areas of scientific expertise. These so-called experts readily offered misinformation on the subject of COVID-19, which Ms. Tobacco accepted without question. In addition to being disappointed by Ms. Tobacco's clear display of partisanship, I was deeply disturbed by her inability to evaluate evidence and her vocal support of misinformation. First of all, it's incredibly insulting to victims of abuse to hear BOE members talk about masking as if it's a form of child abuse. Many people, particularly those who work in healthcare, wear masks for many hours without adverse effects. One doesn't even have to read the research to know that people wear masks for years and even decades with no adverse health effects.
Time. Could you address Mrs. Tobacco's interview?
Yeah, I mean, just for the record, my understanding is that she was not there as a representative of the board and made that clear in her statement at that time.
Okay. Thank you. Next.
The next comment is for Kim Taylor. Dear Board, is it true that citizens can no longer attend via Zoom and call in to comment? The Zoom option was very helpful for parents with young children. Attending in person is very difficult. It conflicts with bedtimes. This seems less transparent, as I think it limits citizen participation. Since the pandemic, Zoom has become a viable option. During the first few months of the pandemic, I worked from home, had doctor's appointments via Zoom, etc. After watching last week's meeting, it seems as though the purpose was to punish a board member who attends via Zoom. Please don't also punish the public by ending the Zoom option. I feel as though there is an attempt to be less transparent. For example, I heard that PIC will no longer meet each month. Therefore, the public will be less informed about what is happening in the schools. I'm also concerned that the district does not seem to realize that a pandemic is going on. My 3 children are under 12 and are ineligible for the vaccine. I don't understand why board members are speaking out on social media and at some Republican Zoom meeting patch article about medical issues. I believe in credentials. I don't think board members are qualified to make medical decisions. I think it's too early to decide whether kids should be in masks in September. I need to feel as though the Middletown School District will be safe, and I no longer feel that way. With no remote option, many parents with young children are worried that a bunch of rogue, uneducated board members are making decisions based on emotions. Please do the right thing and allow for Zoom participation, and also consider the health and safety of the students under the age of 12. Sincerely, Kim T. Leonardo Ma.
Thank you.
Our next comment is from Marilyn Cadis. Dear Middletown board members, as I am unable to attend the meeting on July 27th, I would very much appreciate the reading of my statement below as it related to the request by Lincroft families for courtesy busing to Middletown High School starting this fall 2021. As a Middletown resident since 2002, I am saddened and disappointed that the requests from Lincroft families residing around the Leedsville and Brayburn area have gone unheard, resulting in my formal request for busing in 2021, now that my oldest is set to enter Middletown High School South. When courtesy busing is offered to other families who fall short of the 2.5-mile requirement, one is left speculating, what is the bias in place against the families that have requested busing for all these years? Is it that the safety of their children matters less? Did they not file the request correctly and escalate appropriately? Across the state, there are exceptions made for various reasons, yet as far as I personally know, requests for busing to South made since 2002 have fallen on deaf ears. I personally feel this has gone on far enough, and today, in an all-inclusive environment where the state supports an environmentally clean, green agenda, I am at loss why it is taking this much effort to accommodate a request that protects the children in our community. I've shared previous comments with you, the board, in emails that have gone unanswered. I have had several conversations with Barbara Vining, the only one to acknowledge my request. I have cited bylaws that show you can easily accommodate this request, and I have cited studies that indicate walking 2.5 miles is unreasonable. Lincroft has a ridiculously low walkability score. Perhaps it is time to update some antiquated laws and rules that are in place that are inconsistent with today's realities. Laws are supposed to protect citizens, not work against them, and marginalize some and not others. Lastly, I would like to express my commitment to a positive resolution for all the families affected and remind you of your civic duty to all of your constituents, not just a few. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration of this matter.
Thank you.
Our next comment is from Julie Rizoff. Middletown board members, as I am unable to attend the meeting on July 27th, I would very much appreciate the reading of my statement below as it related to the request by Lincroft families for courtesy busing to Middletown High School South starting this fall 2021. My youngest son will be starting Middletown High School South in the fall, a crucial time in any child's life and one already filled with lots of stress and anxiety. On top of all this, I do not think we should add the stress and anxiety of getting to and from school to these children. However, figuring out how he will get to school is now one of my son's biggest anxieties since we live at 71 Lawley Drive, Lincroft, 2.48 miles from the school, not 2.5. I have a question for the board member here. Do you know how long of a walk is 2.48 miles? 45 minutes one way, and that's not factoring in lousy weather. What happens when we start getting northeastern rain and snowfall? What happens when it gets colder and the days shorter? Those children would be leaving the house to get to school before it is even fully light out. They will be walking on a road where cars routinely speed way above the speed limit, where the sidewalk is inconsistent and not even shoveled in some places. Yet you expect students to walk, you still expect the students to make it to school. I can tell you right now, you are setting up any student that lives under 2.5 miles up for failure. Or do you expect the parents of the students to drive them? Do the parents that live in the 2.5 mile range of the school have different schedules than the rest that give them the ability to drive their kids to school? If so, my husband and I have not gotten the memo and we are still required to get to work, making us unable to drop off our son. If you don't mind, I can make my point even more apparent by telling you a short story. Before my family moved to Lincroft, we lived on Staten Island. There was no busing to high school regardless of distance. Still, we lived close enough that at the time, a mile, that both my oldest son and daughter walked to school. Here are some highlights from those 4 years. My daughter at 14 was repeatedly catcalled on her way to school. She felt so unsafe that her male friends altered their routes to start walking with her every morning. From the ages of 14 to 18, my daughter was on multiple occasions followed home by a male student that would repeatedly harass her. My son at 15, while walking to school, was hit by a man riding a bicycle. The man sped away, leaving my son with luckily just minor injuries. My son at 16 had to get to school to take a very important exam. Even though it was raining incredibly heavily, no one could drive him. He walked and later got nasty bronchitis. If they saw any snow or indication of snow, both of my children would refuse to even leave the house. These led too many arguments until one weekend I walked their route after a snowstorm. Okay. The last comment is from Christy DeMarco. I wanted to address a busing issue for Middletown High School South for discussion at this evening's board meeting. We live at 98 Leedsville Drive, Lincroft, and are not provided busing to the high school. It is 2.1 miles door to door for us to get to South. This is a 45-minute walk that requires children to leave while still dark 3 months out of the year in order to get to school on time. My daughter is going into her sophomore year and my son will be a freshman in 2 years. I'm not sure. I'm just going to check with you, see if I should read this publicly.
Yeah.
She wrote it. Yeah.
Okay. He is classified special needs with an IEP that requires transportation that will need to be provided for him separately by the school if there is no general busing for where we live, which seems more complex and costly than providing a route for our section of Lincroft. I understand the district policy for distance, but that is not the only or most significant concern about the route to and from the school. Frankly, if it were just the distance, that would be a pain, but it is the set standard for Middletown and I wouldn't be arguing it. The route requires them to cross the intersection of Middletown Lincroft Road and West Front Street, a dangerous intersection with no crossing guard or pedestrian crossing indicators. It also requires them to walk over 2 pedestrian bridges that cross over streams along Middletown Lincroft Road. These are on sections of the road where there's virtually no shoulder. Both of these bridges are closed and roped off for extreme weather such as snow. Last winter, they were closed for over a month when we had snowstorms. This left no sidewalk access and forced anyone walking or riding bikes to go onto the road in order to pass. Because of a guardrail between the road and the sidewalk, they would need to either exit the sidewalk well before the bridges when they are closed, or climb over the guardrail when reaching the bridges. On a road that has a 40-mile-per-hour speed limit that exceeds this alone is hazard enough to deem the route completely unsafe for children. Between the travel time, weather and seasonal conditions, and most importantly, safety, I hope the board and district takes this matter into strong consideration and provides what is needed to keep our children safe. I have attached photos of the 2 pedestrian bridges for reference. Thank you for addressing this matter. Those are all the comments, Mrs. Williams.
All righty. That was all the public comments. Everybody in here had their opportunity. Hey, seeing that, we're going to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Does